So what do we, excuse me, what's the form?
Just, no, just, if you want to just talk about maybe what your experience was about being a black belt.
Has anyone got any questions about anything? Let's start that way. Martial arts, your journey, expectations, anything like that. Must be something. Remember again, the only silly question is the one you didn't ask. No? You're completely sure of what you're in for?
Absolutely not. So, did you have a question?
Well, I was thinking about Bruce Lee, 40th anniversary of Bruce Lee's passing, and well, I suppose the influence that he's had in your training over the years, the arts that you perhaps focused on because of his influence that otherwise you may have overlooked or not concentrated on as much, or perhaps you could tell us about that, so his influence on your experiences.
Well, unfortunately, again, giving away my age, Bruce didn't have an influence on my beginnings because I had already started in martial arts when I became exposed to Bruce Lee. I think Enter the Dragon came out in 1972, something like that. And so I was 22, I started, martial arts when I was 11, judo, and then started karate at 14 and a half, 15, something like that. So I was very much into the Japanese system of martial arts, and used to watch a lot of the Chinese movies, but when this movie came out, of course everybody was impressed and very influenced by the ability of Bruce. It's more in hindsight that you look back at somebody that made such an impression on martial artists and people in general. And when I say looking back in hindsight, you realize, we talk about today being an MMA world, a mixed martial arts world. Pretty much when I started, as I always like to say, you did karate, or you did judo, or you boxed, or you wrestled. There was not really a lot of mixing. And now you do. The whole combat environment is UFC kind of based, even though UFC, as I say, is a sport version of mixing martial arts. But in hindsight, when you look back at Bruce and some of the movies, he was one of the first to not only be doing his Chinese-based style of martial arts, but he included boxing. He used to worship, a lot of the boxers of the time and the past boxing champions. And also you see him incorporating grappling into his fight scenes. He was doing arm bars and things with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and people like that. And that's when you realize what a forethinker somebody like Bruce was. Again, he was one of the first to do that, to really be mixing martial arts. So he was one of our first mixed martial artists and martial arts champions, and thinking out of the box, thinking laterally, not just staying, as we used to say, with the blinkers on, with the art or style that he was doing. And he used to always talk about not really having a style. And I think we can learn a lot from that, as far as being students, and all of you here are students. We're like, I used to say about art, if you're playing the piano, and I've said this a lot before, you play the scale, everybody learns the same scale on a piano or a guitar, same chords, and then you play somebody else's song, all which have been taught to you, and eventually the final result is that you start to play somebody's song that you've been taught. And I hope you can see the parallels with martial arts. This is all your forms, your basics, your little notes that you're taught within a martial art, and you're taught your forms, or kata as we called them, and then you free spar. And eventually, when you free spar, it's really your own individual expression of all those notes, of all those techniques. It individualizes you. And the same with playing a guitar or piano. Eventually, hopefully you get to the stage where you compose your own music. So all those basics and all those notes are your individual expression of those fundamentals, those foundational techniques. And I think the more you realize that, you know, you as an individual can express your art in your own way, the way you think about it, the way you express it physically, I think that's what was so groundbreaking about somebody like Bruce. He did not want to be confined by his instruction from his masters, from his teachers. He decided, I'm going to be my own artist and expand my views and basically pressure test different theories, different aspects of his thoughts on the arts, and he did that so incredibly well. And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned from somebody like Bruce. And so rather than always looking back in hindsight on somebody like Bruce, apply it to what you do now. You know, I always say when I teach seminars now, when I teach a seminar, I call it my tea tasting, where I'll bring chamomile and English breakfast tea and peppermint tea, and I give you a little taste, and you'll go, oh, that's really bitter, I don't like that. Oh, that's interesting, what's that one? Oh, I like that English breakfast tea. So in other words, I do a seminar, I'll kind of give you little pieces of different aspects of what I do. I'm not really interested in you knowing it by the time you leave, because I say if I try to teach you something that you absolutely know by the time you leave, I'd get through maybe one thing. And the reason you're able to do that now, or I feel you're able to do that now, is that all of you have access to everything pertaining to the arts, merely by YouTube alone. You know, when I started, and it would have been the same with people like Bruce, we didn't even have video machines when I started in the 60s, let alone DVDs, and now with YouTube. So the point being that by introducing yourself to just different little glimpses of a technique or a theory or whatever, there's no excuse for you not becoming your own instructor. You can go online and access the best masters in the world and improve your skills. The only inhibiting factor could be you, you know, so it always gets back down to how badly do you want it, how badly do you want that mastery, and are you wanting to just sort of wait until each time you come to class and line up to be hand-fed, which is good because you want direction from your peers, but don't limit yourself at that. You know, you can be your own instructor and pave your own direction, your own path, the same as Bruce Lee did. It might be different from somebody else's path, but that doesn't matter. It's the same as an artist. One might paint scenic art and some the portraits and some do real life and skill and all of this. But it's all totally valid. You know, it's really a matter of your own aspirations and what you want to become and how you want to express your art. And again, it seems like I'm all over the place, but again, I see Bruce Lee as that. He's a great example of somebody thinking out of the box, becoming his own master, his own teacher, but importantly using the fundamentals and the foundational techniques that he learned from the different masters that he had, whether it's Yip Man or, you know, whatever in the field. But again, as you know, he didn't confine himself to the Chinese arts. He got in the Western boxing, the grappling, the wrestling, and everything else. So I guess that would be my answer to that. So that's why I implore you, all you people, you know, when you're black belt candidates, when I became a black belt, the biggest lesson my instructor gave me that especially first degree black belt, all that did was show you're actually serious about learning the arts. It was really just the first step. All that showed was that you understood the fundamentals and the basics of your style, and now it's time to get serious, hence the different degrees after that. And again, we used to consider Q ranks, meaning the bars and everything and the different colors leading to black to be like boy grades or girl grades, whereas the Dan rankings and everything were the adult ranks. As I said, and it didn't pertain to your particular age, it meant your age within, referring to the amount of time you've been training and being in the arts, if that makes sense. So, you know, the biggest lesson I can say to you guys is when you're going for first degree especially, just look at it as the beginning of an incredible journey. You know, I've been in martial arts 52 years now, and I still feel like this is my journey, and I'm probably about here. And the more you realize that it's just a never-ending journey, the better it will be for you and your development as a martial artist, as a person, and your ability to apply these lessons in life and be open always to learning new things about yourself, about your art, and about life. You know, there's another saying that you should not train to get rank. Rank comes as a consequence of training. That you just train, you're passionate, you just do the best you can do, and along the way your master or your instructor says, oh, by the way, you're ready now for this particular grading or testing or ranking. And even then, it shouldn't be for me that you get up on the floor that day with the chance of failing. It should be virtually a foregone conclusion that you are already that rank. It's just putting that stamp on it. It's like, let me just show you how ready I am. And that gets down to, again, doing the homework and being prepared and everything else, and also the discretion of your instructor that you are, in fact, ready. And by the way, if you get to that degree rank and you feel, I've had it a lot where I've gone, I'm not ready for this rank, I feel inadequate, that I'm not good enough, then the onus is on me to do whatever work is necessary to make myself good enough. That's what I can do for me. You know, I can be, again, motivate myself to bring myself up to the standard that I, in my mind, put on that particular level of rank, whether it be first degree, second degree, on and on it goes.